Okay, so he has 5 cards in hand, and we have quite a big board. Do we go for game? Hey everyone, it's Adakai TCG here, and I'm coming at you with another deck profile video. We'll go over the deck profile for Boa Hancock, and then we'll go through a couple games where I'll be featuring this deck list and just showing you how it kind of functions as a deck. And so, first off, let's go through the leader. And if you guys liked the art on this card, again, this is a custom that I have available on my website. It's actually... I call her Boa Flamingo because it's Boa dressed as Doflamingo, and it's a dual-sided card, so you can play it as a Boa on one side. On the back side, it's the same art, but then it's the Dofi effect written on there. So you really get the value of 2 leaders for the price of 1. But yeah, this card is available. A little bit of a missed opportunity because the front side is the Boa dressed as Doflamingo. Many people were asking why I didn't do Dofi dressed as Boa. You know, I just didn't think of it. And so, yeah, that would have been quite a meme card. But yes, anyway, let's go through the leader. I really like this deck. It abused me in Peoria. As you guys know, I'm a Bonnie main, and this deck kind of hard counters Bonnie. But yeah, it looked really fun to play. I like the curve that it plays on, and then yeah, just being able to be aggressive and defensive, and then just start really messing with your opponent's board as well. Just it's a lot of fun to play. And so let's go through the leader. It's a 5k power leader with a special attribute, and her effect is you're on your turn once per turn. This effect can be activated when a character is removed from the field by your effect. If you have 5 or less cards in your hand, draw a card. And so anytime you're moving any character, whether you're bouncing back, bottom decking, or anything of that sort, on your turn, as long as you have 5 or less cards, you're drawing a card. And so what this deck typically does a lot is you get to be quite defensive and quite liberal with your counters, because as you're doing what blue naturally likes to do, which is bounce things or bottom deck things, you're refilling your hands with cards. And so yeah, so there's that. And yeah, because you're drawing cards, you're also seeing a lot of your pieces, and you have cards that'll help you set up the top of your deck to make sure that you're getting what you need for the game. And so this deck does feel quite consistent to me, which I really do enjoy. And if you have issues, there are ways the deck helps you fix your own hand. And so we'll go through that, but I'm going to go through the cards a little bit out of order, but bear with me. I think it'll make more sense if I talk about certain cards first, and then we get to the other ones later. But we're going to start with the 3-drop Dofi. This is the OP07, 3 cost 4k power with a 1k counter. It's a blocker, which is great. And on play, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, then return them to the top or bottom of your deck in any order. Really good turn 2 card going first on your 3-Dawn, because just being able to see the next 5 cards and reorder them to your liking, or just even bottom decking it if none of the stuff on there is what you're kind of looking for, really helps you play consistently in this game. And so yeah, I do think that that's one of the strongest effects. You're not adding a card to your hand, but you're ensuring consistency for your future turns, which is really powerful, especially in a meta where we are seeing such a diverse amount of decks. Being able to pick and choose the tools that you're going to need to see for each deck is really, really good. We're going to continue on with the Warlord package. So, but before that, I guess we'll talk about the Searcher. So we are running 4 copies of the OP07 Sengoku. It's a 1-drop, 2k power, 1k counter, and on play, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Reveal 1 card with 7 Warlords of the Sea. then add it to your hand, then place the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. So really good card to kind of pick out the pieces that you're also missing in your hands that you're going to want to set up. Otherwise, you can always grab a 2K later on in the game, which is also very powerful. And so, again, guys, searching, there's a lot of skill when it comes to searching in card games. Although you are netting basically 0 by playing a search and it's kind of filtering your deck, knowing when to search is also a very, very high skill factor. And so just because you have a search doesn't mean you're always going to want to use it. It may be more beneficial towards like the mid game when you're looking for a specific piece, or the late game when you're trying to get some more 2Ks in hands just to survive a turn. And so that's kind of like my little interjection and tidbit on searches in any deck. But yeah, so he can hit many cards in this deck. Pretty much all your mid-range warlords and some of your top-end warlords as well. And so very good card. Yeah, and so with that being said, let's go through the rest of the warlords package. We are running the 4-drop 5K Crocodile. This is a 2K counter. And so that's a very good stat line for even being a 2K counter. But then he also has an on-play effect that does come into play. So on play, you can rest one of your Dawn, then return up to 1 2-cost or lower character to your owner's hand, and to the owner's hand. And so that is your opponent or yourself, right? And so some of the things that you can do, well, I love playing this card out and bouncing back like a Rosinante blocker. It's just really nice to do that if I want to like deal with the kid in the green matchup. But another value way is just to bounce back your own Sengoku and just do another search, right? And so really good card. And then when you bounce back, even your Sengoku, as long as you have 5 or less cards, once you bounce that back, you are drawing a card from your leader effect too. And so as you can see, there's already ways that we can just start continuing to replenish our hand. Of course, we're running the 4-cost 5K OP07 Jinbei. He has 1K counter, and this is just a staple in any Warlords deck now, most blue decks in general. So on play, you can play up to 1 cost 4 or lower 7 Warlords of the Sea type characters other than Jinbei from your hand. And so really good at flooding the board. And again, Bo is one of those leaders that doesn't mind playing 2 cards from hand, right? Because we are constantly refilling our hands. And so I think this gets extra value, right, when we're playing this leader. And so oftentimes, like in the beginning of the game, I'll be countering out with like a 2K and then playing this into this card, the Moria card, which is a 4-cost 5K body, 1K counter, and on play you can add up to 1 7 Warlords of the Sea or Thriller Bark's Pirate type character with a cost of 4 or less other than Gecko Moria from your trash to your hand. And so, yeah, really good way just to counter out, but then get that card back in hand so you're not really losing any value, right, from the original counter. And so this is also great at getting back cards like Doflamingo if you want to set up your next turns. And so, yeah, like it's just so defensive, right, because you're countering out, you're playing things like Moria, grabbing back your Dofis, playing it out, it's another blocker, and it lets you set up your next turns. And so really, really strong synergies in this deck. Then we're running 4 copies of the 4-cost 4K Power Law. He's a 2K counter, which is great. And he has an activate main. You may return this character to its owner's hand. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, they place 1 card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. So they still get to choose the card that they're putting away, but again, you're negging your opponent 1 card, and you're getting a 2K back into hand. And if you have 5 or less cards at that time, Boa is drawing again. And so, yeah, just very, very good value, right? Because you're pretty much gaining 2 cards. Your opponent is minusing 1 card, and now you have card advantage, right? So, yeah, really strong, really, really strong. And oftentimes you can cheat him out for free by playing the Jinbei, right? And so there's just so many cool combos you can do with this deck. And lastly, we're running I guess the last four costs that we're running for the 7 Warlords is Dracul Mihawk. He's a 4 cost 5k power, again with a 2k power stat or 2k counter stat line. And if you attach it onto him when attacking, you get to draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand. And so we do have quite a few bricks and events in this deck. And so sometimes having this out and just being able to draw 2, trash 2 will help us clear out some of the dead cards in hand and allow us to draw into more counters and pieces that we may need for the game. And so very good card. We're running at a 2-0 for now. I may end up running a 3-3 split in the future if I find it necessary, but for now I'm trying it out at 2. It seems to be working out in most of my games. All right, so those are the 4 cost Warlords. What can also be searched, though, is the Boa Hancock. It's a 6 cost 8k power, no counter, though, but on play, up to one of your opponent's characters, other than Monkey D. Luffy, cannot attack until the end of the next turn. End of their next turn, rather. And so then you can place one cost 1 character or less on the bottom of the owner's deck. Really cool card. It'll bottom deck any annoying searchers, things like the Bonnie, the Baby 5, any Momo searcher, Otama, you name it. All those 1 cost searchers. Or even your own Sengoku, right? But because you're playing it, you are stopping a body from your opponent's board from attacking. So it's great, very defensive. You're establishing a 6 cost 8k power, fantastic stat line, and you're bottom decking something so that you can activate your leader's effect and draw a card. So chaining these is really fun. Just preventing your opponent from attacking while building your board and just keep drawing cards is very, very, very strong. And so there's that. Next, I kind of want to talk about pudding. This is kind of the standalone card in the deck. We are running 3 copies of it because this deck just gets this card just gets too much value against many of the decks that are meta, right? And so your Black Yellow Luffy, the Enels, the Namis, even Bonnies tend to have really big hand sizes. Sometimes even Reiju, right? Because they do the Reiju into Reiju effect, draw 3 cards. And so your opponents can sometimes have some of these really, really large hands, in which pudding is the great equalizer. They have to shuffle all their cards back into their deck and then draw 5 cards. And so sometimes you're stripping out like 5+ cards from your opponent if they're bad. But what I will say in the higher level games is, since you're playing blue, I find that your opponent is ready and playing around this pudding, which you'll see in one of the matchups that I'm showing you guys against Black Yellow Luffy. They were playing around this card quite well. But what I also found, though, is just knowing that we're blue and we threat pudding forces your opponent to play somewhat inefficiently, right? And so I was playing in locals the other day, and I was playing against a Black Yellow Luffy player, and he knows I run the pudding, and so he was playing a certain way, but I just never drew into the pudding. Like on my first Sengoku search, I bottom decked all 3. So I knew I wasn't going to see the pudding like the rest of the game, but even the fact that I'm just blue forces them to play around it, right? And so I was able to kind of take advantage of that and start swinging, like asking how many cards they had in their hand and then swinging, because no one wants to get their cards stripped out, so they'll start countering out earlier or doing things like that, which once you can start predicting what your opponents are going to do, you can take advantage of that and get some slight advantages. And so very strong card. Definitely keep it at a 3 of in this meta, especially because it can't be searched, and so I do like it at 3. Okay, so we're going to talk about the combo setup for your top ends. If you notice, we are running 3 copies of the 5-drop Ace. He's a 5 cost 6k power with a 1k counter. It's not a bad stat line at all. He does have the blocker attribute, which is also really good. So he's quite defensive. But his on play is really, really good, right? Because you get to draw 2 cards, then return 2 cards from your hand to the top or bottom of your deck in any order, in the order of your choice, right? And so this effect is really good in 2 ways. One, if you just have a dead hands and you really need to draw into your other pieces, this card is fantastic at just, you draw the 2, you put 2 cards you don't need at the bottom of the deck, and now your deck is that much closer to giving you the pieces that you need, right? But what it's also great in is the turn before you're ready to drop your Sanji, it's great at setting up whatever your Sanji is going to play, right? And so say you're on your 7th on turn, what I love to do is drop my ace, put something like my Mihawk into my life. It'll be like Mihawk and then just another card on top of that. So that next turn I draw, and then the Mihawk is on the top of my deck. Then you can safely play your Sanji into the Mihawk, bottom deck of 7, and now you set up 2 9k bodies, which is really, really difficult for any deck to answer. And so, yeah, and if you need, say, Mihawk is not the card that you want because you're not going to bottom deck a 7 cost that's going to be of value. Maybe you just need to prevent 1 attack from coming in. You can always put your, Boa there as well. Or however you want to do it, right? And so the other cool thing is we are running quite a few characters. We're only running, 7 events. And so sometimes you can just risk it for the biscuit and just play out the Sanji. And playing any of these cards will probably be helpful, right? And so maybe aside from a pudding, but you can always decide, right? Because it's up to, up to 1 character. Okay, yeah. So if your opponent has less than 5 cards and the top card's a pudding, you don't have to play it. Okay, and so, but anyway, that's a really, really strong combo. That's why we're running the ace. I am running it at a 3 of. The deck that I saw, it was running at a 4 of. But that's because I kind of wanted to tech in just 1 copy of something else, and so we'll go over that soon. But yeah, those are the characters that we're running. Let's go over the events first. It's a very tight deck list, so I'm only running 1 copy of the Gum Gum Rain. This is the counter where it's a 0 cost. You can trash a card from your hand, and a leader or character can gain up to 3,000 power for the battle. It just helps you be defensive and clear out some of the dead cards in hands. I wish I could make it 2 of, but for now we have to keep it 1 of because I think the other events are needed at those ratios. And so, yeah, it does have a trigger, return up to 1 character with a cost of 2 or less to the owner's hands. That could come into play sometimes, but there's not too many 2 costs that we're comfortable returning back to the opponent's hand, other than maybe like a Rosinante blocker. But yeah, mostly used for its main effect. Next, we're running 2 copies of Red Rock. Really good card. Just being able to bottom deck any card that you want is really strong. On your 10 Dawn turn, you can Red Rock and play out something like Jinbei, which can play out another 5k, which means you're simultaneously removing a big body while establishing 2 bodies of your own, which is a very big tempo shift. And yeah, that's really strong. Gravity Blade, another staple in all blue decks. And so for those of you who don't know, it's a 7 cost event. You can place up to 2 cost 6 or less characters in any order on the bottom of the owner's deck. And so very strong. Getting rid of 2 6 cost bodies is a big tempo shift. It is quite expensive though, being a 7 Dawn, and so the only things that we can really play after that are like your Doflamingo or Sengoku, and so which does come in handy sometimes, right? If you bottom deck 2, play a Dofi, set up in your next turn, that's strong. Yeah, and so the reason why I dropped Ace down to 3 is because I did want to tech in 1 copy of Perfume Femur. And for those of you who don't know, this is kind of like the blue Diablo Jambe, up to 1 of your 7 Warlords type characters, leader or character, so it can always work on Boa. Gains 2,000 power during this turn, and then your opponent cannot activate blockers when that selected card attacks. And so really strong at closing out a game, right? And so you can give it to your Mihawk, you can give it to your Boa, you can give it to any warlords that you have. And so sometimes, like in a meta where we're seeing a lot of blockers, some unkOable, and we don't have the removal for them, and we just need to swing big, this one card can just help us close out the game. And we are quite aggressive in the beginning too, because we're just flooding the board with our bodies and just kind of going really aggressive while aggressively defending our board too, because we're able to continually draw. Because of that, a lot of times towards the end game where you're able to drop your big monsters, your opponent's already just at 1 or 0 life, and so being able to kind of just arbitrarily close out the game is really strong. And so yeah, that's the deck list. I really like it. I hope you guys give it a try. But with that being said, let's just get into some gameplay. Alright, so we have a black-yellow Luffy matchup. This, I believe, I am quite favored into. But who knows? I've been surprised before. So he chose to go second. I don't have a great going first curve. I'm going to actually try to mulligan here. Perfect. So we have a better curve here now. So let's deploy this guy out. I will take the Jinbei. And we'll put this back something like this. And we'll say pass. We do have the Dofi to start setting up our next few turns, which is great. I'm kind of okay playing this a little slower. And just really start setting up my pieces. I'll try to keep him at 3 and then let him self-mill after that. He does have to start playing around my pudding, so he may, he's trying to counter and set up his trash. That's perfectly fine. Oh, great. Okay, so we have quite a few things that we like to see on the top. So next turn, we don't need to see the gravity blade till later. So we'll be on 5, 7, 9. Okay, I'm actually okay with this. We'll say pass. The cool thing about this matchup is they'll always kind of try to play around the pudding. And so we do get a little bit of an advantage because of that. Cool. We'll play this guy with this guy. Draw that and say pass. I would really like to see an ace here so I can set up the Sanji into an ace play, or Sanji into the Mihawk play, but I did not. Here, I'm okay giving this up. Let's see what he has in his trash. I'm okay actually just gravity blading these two. Draw him a card. And then we will swing 5. And we'll say pass. So we can Mihawk this next turn. That's not a problem. I will counter out of this one just to keep my hand size down. I will take that. I will Mihawk, draw a card, and say pass. So now he's forced to have another Sabo in hands. Or else he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Okay, so he does not. Looks like he's trying to go for a game here. We'll counter this one. We'll take that one. to. Okay, so he has 5 cards in hand, and we have quite a big board. Do we go for game? Let me do some calculations. We can go 9. He'll have to give up 2 cards. We can go 9, 2 cards. So let's do a check. Ten and 10. Does that just do it? This bait. If he does have two Ks, I'm a little screwed. Does he have the Egghead Luffy here? No, he does not. Maybe I'm inclined to play it a little safe here on return. He used a lot of 2Ks already. But even a 2/1/1 saves him. And he'll be able to cycle the ace, which is not ideal. So we'll just have to go for it. Oh, we got it. Okay, that was a little closer than I thought. He did a really good job playing around my turns, but yeah, I think we just had to end up going for it there. I will keep this hands. Let's play out this guy. We will grab the Luffy. And we'll say pass. Here I will counter. We will play these two, and I will say pass. I'll counter. We will set up my top life. Ooh, okay, so I'm at 6. 6, 8, 9, 6, 8, draw a card, 9. Cool. What do we want to do? Maybe we'll play out another Luffy and just have the board flooded. Yep, so 6. Next turn's 8. This is 9. But on my 8th on turn, I'm going to Gravity Blade, which means, or Boa, which means I'll draw a card, and then this will be, okay. So we'll swing. And then we will swing here. Here, we'll pass. Trash. Block. Here we will Gravity Blade. Oh, 6 or lower. So here actually I will Boa. One enemy that cannot attack. We'll draw the card. Then we will go swing 7. Counter. We'll pass. We'll block with this Luffy to make room for my Sanji. And Mihawk. attack me. We'll just use a trigger to get rid of a Shirahoshi. That's fine, because now we're going to play and deploy. We'll choose the NL. If he trashes his life, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Now we'll go again. We'll say pass. Take that. Take that as well. Take that as well. Here, I think we just have to go for game. That's okay. Then put the rest on Boa, and that is GG. Alright, it's a Reiju match. We will... Giving them second might give them Ichiji on curve, but then they get Porsche on curve. We'll go first. I actually kind of like this hand, so we're going to keep it. We're going to deploy this, we'll grab the Jinbei, and we'll pass. On 5, we'll set up the Jinbei, and then on 7, oh, okay, so we have that there. Here, I think I'm just going to swing 5 and 5. Just force some cards out of their hands. And we'll pass. The Gravity Blades are sure, they're just not as good in this matchup because it doesn't hit the Ichiji, but it can hit the rest of their board if... we'll take this because I kind of want to draw something I can play the Jinbei. Perfect. But it does hit these little guys here. Especially if we can just bottom 2 of the Reijus, that's pretty nice too. He's going to KO this, that's fine. Okay, so this turn we'll probably play out the Jinbei and Moria. Then next turn, on 7, we're going to set up the Mihawk with the Ace. And hopefully by then they'll have an Ichiji out so that we can bottom deck it. And we'll end the turn here. Here I will counter 1. We have to take this one. We will also counter this. Ichiji looks like it's coming out. This deck is very, very aggressive. Alright, so here we're going to have to summon the Ace. We won't have any counter. But let's just swing into the course first. We'll swing at it again. We'll swing 2 into their Niji. They do counter. We'll play this. Place on top. We'll go these 2. And we'll say pass. If he comes at life, we're in a little bit of trouble. If he comes from my board, that's fine. I will most likely let him take it. We just kind of need a stall for my big boys to come out. We'll let that go. Here. We'll also let that go. I'm gonna block and counter out. Magic is trash. Actually, there's no other HEGs, so here we are kind of safe to... Don't have any counters, so I'm going to leave this guy up. But we will do this. And bottom like that to draw a card. Wow, 3 Gravity Blades. That's tough. Does he have the HEG in trash? No, but he might have it in hand. So we have to be careful for that. He did have it in hand. Just not great for us. Yeah, because now we are in a little bit of trouble. 6 cards in hand. I'm gonna have to Gravity Blade here to draw. That does not really help us either. But we'll see what we can grab. He's going to be at 7. Swinging 12 into us. I think we lose this game, boys. Unless he miraculously tries to swing into one of these guys. In which case we'll be very happy. I do have 6 cards. He may be testing me here. Wow. That was a big misplay by my opponent. So we'll be sending these 2 down. Fine, he has 1 card. Okay, so I win this one, but my opponent had me dead to rights. I was bluffing a lot of cards, and so maybe he thought that 12 wasn't enough, knowing that Boa tends to run a lot of 2Ks. But wow, that we stole that one, boys. We stole that.